Hello there, Drew Hanish of Whiskey Lore. It's time for another whiskey tasting. And today we are going in the value bourbon category, and we're going to talk about a particular bourbon that now is a little bit more readily available, but for a while there I only could seem to find it in Kentucky. And there's a few whiskeys like that, and I'm going to mention a few of them here. But to start off, I just want to say thanks for watching these videos, and if you get value out of them, please click the like button, and that helps boost them up so other people can find them as well. And subscribe and ring the bell if you want to have more access to more of these videos as they come out. JTS Brown is a whiskey that you will hear people say, man, that is a great value bourbon. I found it for around $15 a bottle. When I go to Kentucky, that's where I usually find a lot of it on the shelf. It's made by Heaven Hill, a company that likes to collect old brand names, whether they had it in their heritage or not. T.W. Samuels, J.W. Dant, these are all not associated with the Shapiro family, but of Heaven Hill, but they've all been acquired as labels from these from other distilleries. Either the family sold the name off somewhere, and so they're available. Why not grab them? They're historic names. They also made up some names like Elijah Craig, which, yes, there was a man named Elijah Craig, but that actually was not a whiskey. There was not a whiskey called Elijah Craig until Heaven Hill created one called Elijah Craig. Same with Evan Williams. There was not an Evan Williams whiskey. There was a man who was a distiller and owned distillery in Louisville by the name of Evan Williams, and that's who they are harking back to, but not actually the, he did not evolve into Heaven Hill. So Heaven Hill came out after Prohibition. That's when that distillery really got started. So a little bit of history there, but actually, beyond just collecting names, Heaven Hill also tends to, they tend to have some rare bottles that are hard to find outside the state. JTS Brown was one of them. Now it's more widely available. Heaven Hill 6 Year is a great whiskey. That is one that was, actually there was a bottled and bond version and the 6 Year that you could only get in Kentucky. The bottled and bond has disappeared now, and now they have a 7 Year, and that's available, it seems, everywhere but Kentucky at this point. So I'm not sure of the reasoning behind all of that, but and it costs a lot more, because you used to be able to get that, I think, for like $19 when it was the 6 Year, and now it's going to be around $45 for the 7 Year. Top-notch whiskey, but it's one of those things where, wow, I mean, that's inflation. You want to talk about, 8% inflation, this is like 80% inflation, but they know they got a good product on that one, so that's what they're going to do. This is bottled in bond, this JTS Brown. JTS Brown is John Street Thompson Brown, the man whose initials are here. He is part of the Brown-Forman line, George Garvin Brown, but he is, he actually was kind of striking out on his own and doing his own thing. And JTS Brown was made at the Prentice Distillery for a while, now the Four Roses Distillery. And so this is how things go in Kentucky. It's kind of all over the place. But and that's why you should listen to Whiskey Lore, the podcast, because I go over a lot of this kind of history stuff. And why you should visit the distilleries, because you're going to see some of these names and learn all about them, and have the opportunity to buy some of these whiskeys that you can't get anywhere else. So make sure you save some budget for yourself next time that you go to Kentucky. Let's see how great a value bourbon this is. $15 is what I paid for this bottle, and it is, I think it's a great value bourbon if it hits your palate right. If it doesn't hit your palate right, and I'm going to say a note out of this when I nose and taste it that may turn you off right away. For me, it is a major turn on, but it is one of those flavor notes that can divide the crowd. Some love it, some not so much. So on the nose, you're going to get a lot more oak and grain notes. A little bit of an alcohol smell in there as well, kind of all moving in together. It just has a bourbon smell to it, to me. It really does. Cheers. I call it the Heath Bar effect. It has a little bit of that kind of toffee, maybe even a chocolate kind of a flavor to it, the nuttiness of the oak, but then it has black licorice that comes in, like you just got yourself a bag of black Twizzlers and you're going crazy on them. It's really, for me, it is a note I love, but I know a lot of people don't like it. So if you're not a fan of black licorice, this is probably not going to be your whiskey. But for me, that is the reason why I keep a bottle of JTS Brown around, because it's one of those whiskeys that I can really define that particular flavor out of. On the back end, you're left with some of the grain. You still have a little bit of residual black licorice that comes in. The flavor of the oak is there. The flavor lingers, but this is actually a very thin whiskey once it gets to the finish. And that's probably the place where, when we say it's a value whiskey, value whiskeys can be very good, but they usually have some kind of a defect somewhere. And maybe I won't say a defect, but just something that kind of lets you down from saying this is a higher quality whiskey. And in this whiskey, I think it comes in on the finish where it tends to get a little bit thin. Again, nice lingering flavors there, but slight letdown once you get to that part of the whiskey. But all in all, I think it's a whiskey worth investing in if you're into black licorice. It's not the main note, but it's enough of a note that I think if you don't like that particular flavor, then it's gonna turn you off. Hope you enjoyed the video, and more of them on the way. Until next time, cheers and San Java. It is a good whiskey.